All right, nobody on the meetings yet, but we'll get to it. What I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to go through the assignment from last week. Most of you will see it online. It's the marks have been posted, then it doesn't go on the line, or it doesn't get entered. Okay, so first question. Number one asks if which of the following ones that are nonlinear. You could graph all four of them as well between the coordinates, and if the slope is the same between the coordinates, then we know it's a linear equation. So the correct answer for number one is D. Both C and D are nonlinear equations. Number two says, what is the domain of the relation? Okay, so if I'm listing it, morning, Avery. Excuse me. If I'm listing it, the domain is all the x values from those coordinates. So I list them like this: 3, 5, 7, and 9. So to write them out as a list, that is answer C. So Avery, I'm just going to go through the assignment right now, okay?
Okay.
Question 3 says, identify the slope of a line with a run of -5 and a rise of -15. So this one kind of led you to coming up with the wrong solution because it put it in the opposite order. But if you remember, slope is rise over run. And it says a rise of -15 and a run of -5, which means that your slope is 3 or 3 over 1, which in this case is A. Okay. Oh, I wonder if I've got. Okay, so I'm going to look at number 1 on the short answer. At the bowling alley, Angela rented shoes for $3. It cost her $2.50 to bowl each game. Develop an equation that represents the cost of the bowling with mx plus b. So the cost is the dependent variable. So it's dependent on how many games you played. And x is the independent variable, and that is the number of games you played. So the rate that they give us is our slope, which is $2.50 a game. So I have 2.5, and I times that by the number of games I bowl. And then add $3 to it. Okay? So the cost, to find the cost, I take $2.50, I times it by the number of games I bowled, and then I add the $3 that was automatically the moment that you had to rent the shoes. Okay? So there's A. B asks if it's a linear equation. Well, it's in the form y equals mx plus b, which we now know is a linear equation. So the answer to B is yes. And C, how much did it cost Angela to bowl 4 games? So the correct way to write it is C of 4 equals 2.5. And what that means is, because it's a function, I have to substitute in 4 for wherever x is, and I add 3, which is equal to 13. Okay, so it cost her $13 to bowl 4 games. All right. Number 2 was an exact question out of the book. So in A, it wanted us to find the domain using a number line. So looking at the domain, that's the x values where the dots end up, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So that's showing the domain for the graph. The range for that graph is the y values. And I look at the y values, it starts at 0 and -2. So -2, 1 and 0, 2 and 2, and 3 and 4. So the y values are -2, 0, 2, and 4. So y equals pi r squared. Again, I was asked this before. This is a graph of a parabola that looks something like this. So the domain for that graph, it goes forever to the left and forever to the right. So -infinity to +infinity. So I can write that, and it wants it in set notation. So I put that x such that x is an element of all real numbers. The range for the lowest value that it touches is 0. It goes to +infinity. That means that all my y values are greater than or equal to 0. So I write that as y is greater than or equal to 0, where y is an element of all reals. And I just add that in to let you know that it's a continuous function. Okay? You remember doing this, Avery?
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally in C, it wants you to list out the domain and range. So you just put a squiggly bracket, list all your x values. -2, 1, 4, and 10. My range, 5, 3, 1, -3. There we have it. Okay. Just slow me down if you want. If you have to ask questions, Avery.
Okay.
Okay, for safety reasons, scuba divers need to be aware of the pressure as they dive. At a depth of 4 meters, the pressure is 140 kilopascals. And where does the depth in meters and pressure in kilopascals draw a line through these points? Okay, so with okay, so it says at 4 meters, the air pressure is, or the water pressure is 140 and kilopascals, and the pressure at 9 meters is 190. And then you extend your line, so you draw through that line, and it's going to look like that. So you plot the 2 coordinates on the graph, and then draw a line through the points. Now notice I went right to here. Okay, so what is the pressure? So it says identify the slope and the y-intercept. Well, the y-intercept for this guy, if I drew the line out, should give me pretty much 100 kilopascals. If I drew it through there. Then it asked what the slope was. Well, to find the slope, this coordinate is 9 and 190. This coordinate is 4 and 140. So I'm going to take 190 minus 140, so that's y2. So this will be x2, y2. This one is x1, y1. And then I'm going to take 9 subtract 4, which is equal to 50 over 5, which is equal to 10. So for every 1 meter in depth that we dive, the air pressure is changing by 10 kilopascals. So the slope is 10 kilopascals over 1 meter.
Yep.
All right, last one. It says the amount of $1,000 is deposited in a savings account and earns simple interest. The table shows the amount of money in the account at the end of each year. So at 0, it's 1,000. So that's your deposit. After 1 year, you have $100. After 2 years, you have $1,200. After 3 years, you have $1,300. Is this relationship a linear or non-linear relationship? Okay. So again, you could find the slope between the coordinates, or you could graph it. And if you were to graph it, you would see that the same as what they have here. So that's 1,500, 1,000, 500. So at 0 years, you're at 1,000. And then 1,100, 1,200. 3 years, 1,300. I'm just going to move this guy up a wee bit. 1,500. So I draw a line, and I see that it's a linear function. Okay. Is this a linear or non-linear? It's a linear function. I graph the relation. Which is the dependent amount and which is the independent amount? Well, the dependent is the amount of money you have right here. The amount of money is your dependent event. The number of years that the number of years in which you invested for, that's your independent event. And then it says, how long will it take for the account to reach $2,200? All right. You okay, Avery? Any questions about the assignment?
No, I did good. I've made dumb mistakes, but I know what to draw.
Okay. Perfect. All right. And where are you at in your chapter 7?
I did to the end. Molly and I have one question.
Okay. Where?
She's working today, that's why she's not here.
Okay. Which question are you looking at?
Page 152, 3C.
3C? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, it asks us write in slope point form and then slope intercept form and then general form. Okay, so let's do slope point form first. So that is y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. And then we'll do y equals mx plus b. And then we'll turn them both into general form. Okay, so for C, I've got 1 and 4. And the slope is 1.5, negative 1.5. So I could change that to this. and that would be the right answer for that. Okay, I don't work with decimals in terms of slope because I want them in the fraction form so that it's the rise over the run. All right,
Okay.
and then in this one, the problem is we don't know what the b value is. So what I do is I start by going, okay, -3/2 x, add b. Now I'm going to use my coordinate for x and y to solve for b. So I go 4 is equal to -3/2 times 1, add b. So I'm going to add that to the other side. So I get 4 plus 1.5. I'll write it like this for now. So that's 5.5 is equal to b. So my equation then would be y equals -3/2x plus 5.5, okay, or 7/2, depending on what you want to do. Doesn't matter. Is that 7/2? No, it's 11/2. That. Okay? So either one, if you put 5.5 for it, I'd be okay with it for now. And then it wants you to write it in general form. So let's start with this guy. So what's the first thing that we learned yesterday that we want to do in order to get it into general form?
Take out the fraction.
Take out the fraction. So I'm going to multiply this by 2 and this guy by 2 because that'll cancel them. So I end up with 2y minus 8 equals -3 times x subtract 1. I'm going to multiply that -3 through the brackets. So I have that. Okay. Now I got to get them all to one side. So I'm going to move the 3x and the 3 to the other side. So I'm going to go 3x. I'm going to add 3x over plus 2y. And then I'm going to subtract that to get 0. So I'm going to add 3x and subtract 3. And there's my general form. Sorry, my service has been cutting in and out all day today. Okay?
Yeah,
All right, how are you making out? Does that make some sense to you?
yeah, that's making more sense.
Okay. Did you have any other
That
questions?
was all I had.
Okay. All right. I'm going to leave it at that today, 7.3. I'm going to save 7 for tomorrow. And I'll likely give an assignment tomorrow. I believe that there wasn't supposed to be school on Friday. So we'll have Friday off. I won't be on live on Friday. So I'll give a small assignment tomorrow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the assignment in Teams. So you have to take it out of Teams and you have to put it back into Teams. It's apparently that works way easier. So
Okay.
I'm going to try and do that. Okay? So you had no other questions?
Nope.
Okay then. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. That's all I have for you. And then tomorrow, I will just come back on. I'll show you 7.4 and answer any of the questions that you have from 7.3.
Okay.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're welcome. Bye.